and I begin to just focus on that, some people are just not committed. Because of what we go through psychologically, emotionally, financially, these things tend to get us off focus. But look at somebody and say, you got to become committed. I believe psychologically Jesus knew that he had to die, but the the fight between death and where he was the fact he was dealing with that he was God but man at the same time. So if I say I commit myself, that means I give over my will. Will deals with the emotional state. Will deals with the ability to make choice. So it lets me know that God never took his choice. He had to surrender his choice. Lord, I thank you now. So because here God he was dealing with his humanistic side, he wrestles with this, but he says, in my mind I have to die, but in my emotions I have to make a decision. I don't know who in here are going through some things where you feel like giving up on ministry and dream, but look at somebody and say, you got to make a decision. So here Jesus emotionally makes his decision to say, God, I commit my will to thee. And we love this because he commits himself as a ransom to be able to allow all of us to have life. When we look at the four Gospels, we know that the four Gospels was written to four perspectives. There are four different perspectives. But when I begin to examine Luke, we know Luke was a physician. Yes. So here, when I begin to read the text and pray about the text, the Lord began to take me into a medical standpoint. He said that Luke brought out the autopsy of the death. Jesus. He said Luke brought out the autopsy of the death because this is the reason why you must commit yourself, that they may have the ability to live. And if you don't commit yourself to this death, then they will not have life. So we look at them looking at Jesus on the cross and said, well, if you are the King of the Jews, come down. In all actuality, they have been bamboozled in God's trap, because I need you to kill me to be the ransom for my people. Look at your neighbor and say, they was bamboozled. They was bamboozled. They thought they was in control. In all actuality, they was under God's control the entire time. Let's expose the spirit of darkness. The spirit of darkness, look at this, y'all. God took me back to the book of Genesis when he begins to create light. He took light out of darkness. He separated day from night and controlled it with time. The spirit of God spoke to me. He said, what you don't know, devil, you are controlled by my time. Look at somebody and say, darkness, you're under arrest. Darkness is under arrest. So God spoke to me. He said that this man had to die for a ransom. He had to die for a ransom. He had to become obedient. Anytime that we become obedient and committed to the purpose of God, we birth something that will change a nation. Let's look at the spirit of Abraham. When he dedicates his son to God, Abraham is able to bless a nation. Let's look at Jacob. Jacob wrestles with the angel, commits his spirit to purpose, and he births a nation. Let's look at Jesus. He commits himself for a ransom, his life, and he's able to birth salvation. Look at somebody and say, he was committed to the call. He was committed to the cause. And I said, I was in my church praying today, and I'm closing with this, and the Lord spoke to me. He took me way back to the lady with the alabaster box. I'm closing here. And when she had the box, the Bible said that she broke the box and she put it on him. And the disciples asked him a question. He said, why are you wasting all that precious, expensive oil? Why are you committing such a grand thing to this man? I love Jesus because he did not just give us a paper bag with a sandwich. And Jesus looks at them with the spirit of aggression and says, she only has me but this one time. I feel like going to church right here. The Lord spoke to me. He said, I gave something that priceless. You can get perfume again. Look, can I encourage some people that relationship that you got to give up, you can get a relationship again. Can I encourage somebody that had to walk off their job? You can get a job again. But here the Lord said, I commit my life, a life which is priceless. He gives us his life because he said, I got to be a lamb for the sins of the world. I don't care how many blessings Abraham blesses us with. It does not give us life. I don't care how many arks that Noah built. It cannot give us life. God said, I was on the cross and I gave my only son, and he committed to the death that we may have a right to live. You may have a right to breathe. You may have a right to live abundantly. Touch your neighbor and say, neighbor, you got to be committed to the cause. That means you got to give up some things that you may open up to a new dimension into what God wants you to do. Can somebody say commitment? Says in my clothes, my life is priceless. I told Karen this other day, and I'm closing, Bishop Hood, when my mom died in 05. When it first happened, it hit me. But as I began to live, it really hit me. Because the reality is she ain't never coming back.
That's good.
He had to die and commit himself in a dimension that he's never coming back. Emotionally, psychologically, he had to receive this peace upon him that will allow him to give up his now to save our later.
Right, you better.
Somebody say he was committed to the cause. I want to encourage you tonight that I don't care what you have to sacrifice for God, it's worth the sacrifice. A matter of fact, if I was the lady